The next agenda item, which is our last agenda item for the evening, under reports and discussion items, 10A, Oak Harbor Fire Department Annual Report. And we have our fire chief with us tonight, Chief Merrill, yes? And no candy, but that's all right.
I'm not asking for anything tonight, Mayor.
Chief Merrill, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. Ray Merrill, Fire Chief. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the City Council rule says we go to 9 o'clock. So, I am here to discuss our annual report from 2021. And throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, please stop me and ask. I want you to know what we've done in the last year and what's affected the city of Oak Harbor and some of the stuff that we have accomplished and the direction we are going to go in the future. There we go. So first off, I get to give the report, but I certainly have to give the credit to Angela Bronstein for putting the report together. As you may all know, she does a fabulous job at media stuff such as this. She's very talented. We pass on the information to her, and then all of us at the department know just to walk away. And Angela will come back later and say, here you go. So thank you, Angela, once again. She does do a fabulous job, and you have seen results of her work. So we have been serving the citizens since 1929, when we first started in a barn way back when. And if all goes right, and I'm stretching here for a second, I hope to be here when we have our 100th anniversary. I'm hoping. We'll see. So we know that we serve 9.7 square miles, give or take a little bit. You've seen some of this stuff before. We've got a population base of a little over 24,000. We do protect $2,526,249,219 worth of property within the city limits of Oak Harbor. That's a lot of stuff to protect. Our calls per capita is 16.9 per capita at 1,000. Our insurance rating is still a Class 4. As you know, we're going to be going for a re-rate in August of this year. We're going to do our darndest to stay at a 4, but I absolutely cannot guarantee it. We'll see how that comes out. And we had no civilian deaths or injuries this last year. But we did have some fires that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. Mr. Hoffmeyer, did you have a question? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. I'm sorry. So in 2021, we had 1,520 calls for service, and that's a 12% increase over the last 5 years. You can see kind of some spikes and some valleys. We had an 8% increase over 2020. 2020, of course, as you know, when COVID came around, we saw a change in our responses, and then in 2021, we saw a pretty good increase of 8%. So we take a look at what kind of calls for service did we have? Where did we go? What did we do? What did all that call add up to? Fire calls, we had 64 fire calls. Of that, 13 of those were structure fires. 7 of those were in the city. The rest of those calls were mutual aid calls that we went somewhere else to assist either NAS, North Whidbey Fire and Rescue, or Central Whidbey Fire and Rescue. So that's part of our island-wide mutual aid agreement. Our ladder truck does occasionally respond to Central Whidbey for commercial fires, which we did this last year a couple times. We did have 7 cooking fires, 3 vehicle fires, some dumpster fires, and some other fires. That could be an electrical arc that's sparked, sparking power lines, calls like such as that. We did have 1 explosion, but with no fire, and the call came in, a vehicle exploded. And we got there and steam was pouring out of the radiator, and the radiator blew apart and hoses blew off, and yes, it did explode. Graciously enough, it was not a fire. As you know, with our EMS, we have a contract with the hospital where we go secondary on EMS calls, and we bill the hospital for that service about $121 per call when they call and ask for our services. We did go to 129 motor vehicle accidents. We did 11 search and rescues. We had some EMS that weren't motor vehicle accidents involved. That's where maybe somebody stopped off at the fire station, had a problem. And then we had some other incidents that there was nowhere else to code it, so we coded them as an other in EMS. Hazardous conditions, you can see that we had 18 electrical problems of some sort in somebody's structure. We had some gas or oil spills, natural gas leaks, carbon monoxide problems, and then you may have noticed last year there was a couple times we had a little bit of wind that came through. And during that windstorm, as you know, we're out there taking trees off the road, taking them off of houses, making sure it's safe to be out there, and that happened 19 times. We do a lot of service calls. We assist invalids. That would be a case of somebody needs help getting from their car to the house, somebody from the toilet to a bed, somebody from a wheelchair to something else. They have no one else to call, so they call 911, and we go out and visit those folks. We actually build quite a rapport with some of those folks because we see them, I would say, frequently. They are very gracious. They are somewhat apologetic for calling, but they have no one else. So our guys go out at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to assist them. We did some public service work. We had some water leaks we took care of. There was some unauthorized burning that we had to take care of. We assist other agencies, and we did rescue 4 animals. But let me clarify that here and now, we do not rescue cats from trees. And I will say, have you ever seen the skeleton of a cat in the tree? I will say no. We've done our job well. The false alarms, we know that we get some unintentional calls where the system does something. We've had some malfunctions. We have had some malicious activities where somebody likes to just pull a pull station just because it says pull me. You can't fault them. They did exactly what it said to do, pull. And carbon monoxide activations and some other false calls that we have responded to. You can see we went on 216 of those calls throughout the year. This number holds pretty constant every year. We don't see a lot of variation here. And some good intent. We get dispatched and then canceled en route because they don't need our services. It was a false call of some sort. We've got some smoke scares, as you can see. We've got out there sometimes when we don't find anything. We search around and we find nothing. There has been times where we've had dispatcher errors. Occasionally, there'll be a call going on in Langley, and our engine is dispatched, and somehow we get attached to Langley's call. And it shows a 3-minute response times. I'm thrilled because we really get there quickly, but that's not really the case. We've had some citizen complaints and some other good intent calls that people just, they want to be heard. So they call us and we follow up on it. So when do we have our calls? What's the most amount of time between the nighttime and the daytime? The busiest time of day is 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a surprise. The slowest time is 4 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the morning. That's not you? And you know, these numbers kind of fluctuate every once in a while, but generally we see between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock at night as our busiest time, and of course between 3 and 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning is usually our slowest time. The drawback with some of those 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning calls, sometimes those are the worst calls because that's when we get some structure fires and it takes us time to get there and there's a considerable chance for loss of life. Our busiest month was June and our slowest month was February. There is no rhyme, no reason. Some of our reports we've been busier in August and less busy in January. So it's just a smattering of how the calls happen to come in during that time period. Our busiest day is Wednesday, and our slowest day is Sunday. And again, that is not consistent year to year. There is no rhyme nor reason. It's just how the call volume comes in. So this is the one that concerns me. And Mr. Wiesner, you asked me about this a couple years ago when I told you it was 11% of the time, and you were asking what kind of calls were those? Because I told you we had 11% of overlapping or concurrent calls. I believe this was in last year's report. So you can see that we did 1,520 calls, and 254 calls were at the same time. This year, now this could have been because of weather conditions. There was a couple of these times that we were already on a fire and another fire came in. There were some medical calls that came in. There was times that we were sending a single person on a single response to a person that was unconscious. To me, that's just not acceptable. It's just not the right thing to do. But we've seen an increase in overlapping or concurrent calls, up to 17%. That is a lot. That means we were already busy on one call and somebody else needs help. We take a look at our average response time. Now, I want to clarify this just a little bit. This is an average. And if I said that we went on 10 calls and all of those were within an eighth of the mile of the fire station, except one that was 3.5 miles out, that person way out there is waiting a long time for help when you look at our average response time of 5 minutes and 10 seconds, which is an improvement over last year. But since 2017, we've had an increase of 46 seconds. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper when I get into talking about the quadrants, so you can see where we're going and why these times change just a little bit. And you can see how our increase of response time has been because the distances we are traveling. And we take a look at, there we go. 3 minutes and 55 seconds for all of the fire calls. Now, that's a pretty darn good time. But how close were those calls to our station? How many times were you just happened to be in the neighborhood when we got responded or dispatched to a call? When we take a look at what the standard is that the council has set at 5 minutes, we're well below that 3 minutes and 55 seconds. By the same token, though, one station or one call could be within 30 seconds of a fire station, and the other one is 9 minutes away. I shudder to think about the people waiting 9 minutes for help to arrive, because that 9 minutes seems like 90 minutes when you're watching your house burn. Our response time, we're hitting 63% of the standard by NFPA 1710 standards, and our turnout time is 42 seconds. Now, when we talk about turnout time, and I've talked about this before, the amount of time from the time we get dispatched until our first vehicle gets on the road. Remember, we have a crew of 3 or 4 in the station. If they're already out on one of those calls and a secondary call comes in, we're waiting for our people to get from home to the station to be able to turn out to the call. And that's why that response or that turnout time is lower than the national average of what it should be. When we take a look at medical calls, 5 minutes and 4 seconds. The council has established a 4-minute time for medical calls. And you see we're at 5:04. And when I break down a little bit into the quadrants, you're going to see why. Our response time, we're hitting 52%. Our turnout time, 44%, for the same reasons as our fire calls. So when we take a look at the quadrants, the northwest quadrant, we had 191 calls up there. 13% of our calls are in the northwest end of the city. You can see our average response time to the northwest is 6 minutes and 44 seconds, and we have 5 structure fires in that quadrant. 92 medical calls, 4 hazardous calls, and you can see the other between the service and the other calls. Our next busiest was the southwest quadrant at 456 calls, 31% of them. You may remember last year our southwest quadrant was the highest call volume of everything. Every statistic in here was the highest. Our response time was 5 minutes and 35 seconds. We had no structure fires in the southwest quadrant this year. You can see that we had 252 medical calls. And then you can see the remaining calls, hazardous, service, and other. Northeast, 461 calls, or 32%. Response time, 4 minutes and 28 seconds. We had 13 fire calls in that area, but only 1 structure fire. And then you can see the medical calls, and you can see the remaining calls as they're listed there. And the southeast, 356 calls, 4 minutes and 23 seconds for the average response time, which would make sense when you consider where the location of the fire station is on Whidbey Avenue. 1 structure fire, 176 medical calls, and you can see the other calls, how high that was at 111. But we take a look at the medical calls, when you look at the southwest quadrant, 252 medical calls. And if you look at the demographics of the city, a lot of the, I want to be very careful here, a lot of the more senior citizens live over in that neighborhood. So we get calls for any number of things. We take a look at community risk reduction. How can we reduce the risk within the city? When we take a look at our commercial occupancies, there's 1,025 of them that we will at some point inspect. We conduct live fire inspections on those buildings. We use it as a tool to make sure that the building is safe for the public so that we can identify any hazards that are inside of that structure, again, to make it safe. The intent is we want to keep businesses in business, and we don't want them to burn. We also use it as a time for us to go in and do pre-incident planning, to know what's inside of the building, where it's located, so that if there's a fire there, we know what's there and we can protect ourselves better. And it also helps in insurance rates. Last year, we were able to inspect 640 occupancies for a 62% inspection rate. Some of the reason, it was just difficult to get into some buildings. Of course, with the COVID, we reduced the amount of times we were going into buildings. And we did 56 re-inspections when we found something wrong. So we spent over 348 hours doing occupancy inspections for life safety. You can see what our common violations are: blocked or locked exits, fire extinguishers that are expired, hood and duct systems, fire alarm systems, sprinkling systems that are required service, extension cords that are misused or used incorrectly, addresses not posted, and some fire lane maintenance. Some of the stuff is very easy to correct. And again, this deals with life safety. And we try to work with the businesses. I'll tell you, way back when we first started this program, there was all kinds of resistance for life safety inspections. Because as business owners, you all are going to say, this is going to cost me money. The fire department's going to come in and find all these things wrong, and it's going to cost me money. And now, and one of my captains is here tonight, I would say for the most part, the business owners are happy to see us come in. They know we're not out to cause problems. We're trying to reduce the potential for problem. And so I think we've got a very good rapport with the business community. We did 8 new occupancy inspections throughout the city, 25 fire alarm systems, 15 fire sprinkling systems, 3 hood and duct systems. There were some oil tanks that were decommissioned, 3 fireworks stands, and 2 fireworks displays. So the 2 numbers on the top are kind of misleading. If we only did 8 new occupancy inspections, why was there 25 fire alarm systems? Change in occupancy classification. A change in the alarm system where it had to be upgraded. Changes to what the building was being used as. Or you may have a fire sprinkling system, a hood and duct system, and a fire alarm system all in a new occupancy. So these are the types of inspection or the permits that we go out and issue and then do inspections on. As far as fire investigated, we did 13 of them. You can see the outcome. We had 3 that were undetermined and were suspicious. We had 1 that was undetermined. 2 were smoky materials. 1 was a mechanical issue. 2 was the overheat electrical circuits. And 3 were combustibles too close to structures. And we did do 1 arson investigation that we proved was intentionally set, and it was a fire in Central Whidbey's area that we did a very in-depth fire investigation. It was a suicide with an arsonist cover-up. And we went in and investigated all that for NCIS and Navy. So we take a look at the fire loss overall, $949,000. This is a high figure for us. You've seen some years where we've been down in the $120,000 to $170,000. But we take a look at the property loss, $704,000 for property, $245,000 for contents. As you may remember, last year a large apartment building, actually 2 of them ignited, and 1 building was about an 80% total loss. So that's another reason why this number is a little bit higher than normal. We do maintain fire hydrants. We go out and inspect 911 fire hydrants in the city on an annual basis. Spend 228 hours doing that, and you can see the breakdown of fire hydrants by the quadrants. And you notice that southwest quadrant, those numbers keep growing every year. The southeast quadrant's pretty fixed because there's not a lot of new development going in, but we continually see more and more hydrants in the southwest quadrant. As far as training goes, we provided 1,451 hours. You can see the ticker tape on the bottom of all the stuff that we've trained on. And even with COVID last year and the reduction in people coming in for training on a routine basis, we still provided 5,800 hours of training to all of our staff. We do provide training to the public. We do CPR, first aid, and AED courses. We do host the infant car seat checks that's put on by Safe Kids Northwest. They come in and utilize our facility and then show people how to properly put in their car seats. There we go. This one's kind of fun. I don't know who gets a bigger kick out of going out and changing smoke detector batteries or putting the smoke detectors up for our senior citizens. This has got to be an annual ritual for us. And I don't know who it's more fun for, if it's our guys or if it's the people that we go visit, but it seems like every year pies, cupcakes, cookies seem to come back more frequently year after year. And I know some of our folks have been out and just chatted with the people. It gets to be a community event, but I think it's a very good event, keeping the seniors off of ladders so they don't fall. And our guys get to go in and interact with those folks and have a good time. And I think Paul would agree with that it's just kind of fun. The first time we did it, we thought, oh, this is kind of, and this last year, let's go, it's time. Let's get out and go do this. So it's a good public service that we do. And as you know, we're involved in community events. We were highly involved in COVID vaccinations last year with the number of people that we saw and vaccinated. Fireworks, National Night Out, safe trick-or-treats, stuff that we do throughout the community. I like to believe that we are very community involved and very community minded, and we want to participate with stuff with the community. Last year we did do a fire training burn. Those of you that have participated know how much fun these are. They could get a little warm, it gets interesting. But it's a really good time. We do invite our neighbors to participate. You can see that there's us, Navy Region Northwest, in this case, North Whidbey Fire and Rescue, Whidbey Health EMS, our own police department, and the sheriff's office. And prior to doing our burns, we do multiple training exercises. The cops have used the buildings for search and seizures, for rescues, for entries. That's how the sheriff gets involved. So we like to share, when we get a building, we like to share it with everyone so they get good training out of it as well. And just an idea of, what we're doing and the types of fires that we get to go in. And this is absolutely the best training in the world if you want to go into live fire training, an acquired structure, and be able to go in and take care of it. So a little bit on staffing. We hired 6 entry levels last year as paid on call. We hired 2 lateral entries. We had 9 people that did resign, that left the department for a multitude of reasons. Some got moved, some got orders elsewhere. A couple refused to get vaccinated, and by the mandate that came out from the governor's office, they had to resign. We had one of our career firefighters that decided to go to work at Bellingham. So good for them. And then we had our actual 2 remaining volunteers resigned because they could no longer participate. So years of service. We take a look at our firefighters. And Mr. Evans, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about attrition rates and how long we kept people. When you take a look at this, 23 of our firefighters have got less than 5 years of service. And we're going to break it down here a little bit by career versus paid on call. One of our careers is less than 5. 3 of them are 5 to 9. One has got 10 to 14 years in. And from what I've heard, there's some older folks that have got more than 20 years in the service there. I can't say for sure, Blaine, I can't say. But you can see when we take a look at our paid on call, 22 less than 5 years of service. 5 to 9, we've got 5 of them. 10 to 14 years, there's 2. 15 to 19, there's 5. 20 to 34, we have 2. But we've got 3 folks in our paid on call that have been there for 35 years plus. So we do have a pretty good retention rate when you take a look at all of this. But what concerns me, of course, is that less than 5 years, those folks are just learning how to do the job, and we need to train them appropriately. So 50% or 56% of our paid on call force is 5 years, or 5 years or less. So looking forward to 2022 and beyond. And I like this shot from the top of the ladder truck. It gives you a perspective how high up 100 feet is looking down. Nope. Now, this is true. This is at the top looking down the downside. Look how small the operator looks at the base of the ladder. And I will tell you, one of our tests is, for entry level, is they have to climb the ladder. And we've only had one person that actually froze on the stick, and we had to go up and rescue them to get them down. Most of them take advantage of being able to climb to the top and look around. So we know some of our plans and priorities for 2022 and beyond is the community outreach for the levy and the bond measure, for the satellite station, replacing the aging apparatus, and increasing our staffing levels. We're well involved in that. We're going to look at creating or continue our 5-year community-driven strategic plan to see what the community says they think we need to be doing as we move forward. And we continue our partnership with Island County DEM. We work together with them for incidents. We share the space as far as our emergency operations center goes. We work with them on the Island County mitigation plan, hazard mitigation plan, so that we're all working on the same piece of paper and moving forward in the same direction. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Before we turn to council, I just want to again say that, in my chair, I get suggestions from the community members from time to time about the various things that we do and the services, but I rarely get any kind of negative. In fact, I can't remember the last negative comment I got about about what you do in your department and your area. So I hope you pass that along to your people, that you're obviously doing great things out there, and we appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Turn to council, Councilor Stuckey.
That was a very nice presentation. Very visually pleasing compared to just what was in the packet. And as I mentioned before, I'd encourage you, if we can put it online somewhere, I think that there'd be public that'd be interested in it. I kind of chuckled with seeing the unintentional and the malicious fire alarms, since my 6-year-old son sometimes runs around the funeral home and has pulled at least 3 times. So at some point, that's got to be malicious. My only question is, I saw there was a category there was complaints. It looked like there was only 4 of those. Is that one person complained about a burn on his neighbor's yard? Or what's considered a complaint is my only question.
That would be a neighbor complaining about another neighbor. They don't want to take care of it themselves, so they call us, and we go out and settle the dispute. And it's not even 8 o'clock yet. I mean, I could go on longer if you like.
Yes, we know that, Chief. No, Councilor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. I think some people would be interested to hear about the fact that you go out and assist people with mobility issues or help seniors change the batteries in their smoke detectors. Is there anything else that your department does that people might not know about that you'd like them to know about while you've got the floor?
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
How long do you need, Chief?
How long do I need?
Or Captain Shore, if you've got anything to contribute.
We do the public assists, numerous types of public assist, from anything from helping a person get out of their wheelchair to getting throughout their house, when the ambulance comes back from the hospital, to be able to get them into their house. I'm kind of at a loss, 'cause I'm just not sure where to go. I mean,
I should have warned you about the question.
you should have warned that one, but that's okay. No, it's just, we try to be involved in the community, and if people call, they've got a problem with a neighbor with an illegal burn, we take care of that. We take care of smoke detectors. We've done carbon monoxide alarms, go put those in for individuals. One of my captains, and I won't say which one he is, but he's not sitting in the room right now, has been known to carry batteries with him to replace people's batteries in their smoke detectors if they don't have one. He's been known to carry other stuff on his person while he's in doing inspections, and if it's just a cover plate that needs to be replaced, they stop and replace the cover plate. Last year, we went out on a medical call, and the lady's faucet outside had broken and water was running out of her faucet. So our guys turned the water off, went to Home Depot, bought all the parts, paid for it out of their own pocket, came back and did all the plumbing repairs and turned the water back onto her trailer. I mean, those are the kinds of things our guys do, and they don't ask to be recognized. They just do it. They've done that with electrical problems where breakers failed. They'll go to Home Depot, they'll buy the parts, they'll come back, they'll put it in to make sure it works for the individual. And just to go the extra mile, we've gone to car accidents where somebody's concerned about their groceries. We'll take their groceries and bring them back to the station and put them in the freezer for them. We've taken bicycles home. I mean, the list can go on, Ms. Heisen. I mean, it can really go on. You know what it's like.
Yeah, I've heard people being rescued if the battery dies on their mobility scooter on the sidewalk, or
We have done that.
things like that.
Yeah,
so.
and picked the scooter up and taken them home.
Yep. So, you know, those hills, they're hard. They're hard. Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Paul and staff. It's you guys continue to do a great job year after year, and you make us proud.
Councillor Hoffmeyer.
Chief, I remember as clear as yesterday, the day that you became chief, probably about 10 years ago, roughly. You may know to the day, huh?
I know the day.
I remember sitting about where Greg was that day, and I remember standing at the dais saying at the time, and you could probably roll the footage, but I remember saying at the time, I don't know if a single day has went by that I don't hear something good about Ray Merrill. And here we are 10 years later, and that's still the case. Obviously a testament to your leadership ability, a huge testament to your staff. The buck stops with you. If people had complaints, they would be about you as well, and that's not the case. I hear good things about you every single day and your department, so keep it up, and hopefully you can work another, 35 years?
That's pushing it just a tad.
Pushing
Ben.
it?
Just a tad.
Cap to 30 more.
Anyway, the people of Oak Harbor, myself included, we love you. You are amazing. Thank you.
I will say, I've got 46 years in the fire service, and I've got almost 32 here. I would not change this job for anything. People ask me, well, why don't you retire? And I say, I don't want to. I've got an outstanding staff that works at our department. I thoroughly enjoy working with our folks every day. They do a fabulous job. They are here for the community. To me, it's a privilege to walk through the doors every morning and to be part of the Oak Harbor Fire Department in the city of Oak Harbor. I don't want to retire. I'm not in any hurry. I think we have just got a great organization, and we've got super people that work here, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Thank you, Chief. I too remember that night 10 years ago. I think I was sitting where Mr. Evans was at that point, and this council was having a rough time with that decision, and we got through it, and I'm sure happy that we did the way we did. So thank you again. Seeing no other business, it looks like, I would entertain a motion to